Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our District Cohort 2 information session on the pyramid model and program-wide implementation. Our agenda today includes a few moments for introductions of our team and the Pyramid Pieces team as a whole. Nicole will talk to us about the pyramid model and program-wide implementation, what it is that you are all committing to. We'll review the application process, how to attend office hours, and then we'll take some time to answer questions at the end. Our pyramid model team is comprised, we support two sectors specifically. This group here, and also the three of us that are talking with you, are those that support program-wide implementation with our district partners across South Carolina. Nicole Hudgens is our district implementation coach, and she is an external coach that will help the leadership teams to walk through the implementation process and also support the practitioner coaches that you have in your program, your internal coaches. We also have Ellen Andrews, our behavior specialist, and she supports your behavior support coaches, especially when there are considerations of persistent challenging behavior that may need to be referred to Tier 3 supports. And then finally, myself, Jennifer Harris, I'm the Pyramid Model Coordinator supporting the district implementation and also our state leadership team that looks at and supports the use of pyramid model practices across the early childhood continuum. As I said, we also at Pyramid Pieces at the Child Development Center at USC support childcare program-wide implementation. And that is supported by Carrie Trevetti, who is the childcare program-wide implementation coach. She serves in a similar capacity as Nicole Hudgens. Steph McAvoy is our behavior specialist supporting childcare. And then Nicole Randall is the project manager for childcare implementation supports. And all of our work is directed by Heather Googe, who's the principal investigator for Pyramid Pieces, South Carolina Partnerships for Inclusion, and the Child Care Inclusion Collaborative, South Carolina Child Care Inclusion Collaborative. And then Carrie Kennegeiser, who's the program manager and co-PI for South Carolina Partnerships for Inclusion, or SCIPI. Well, now that you know everybody, I'm going to hand it over to Nicole and let her talk to you about the pyramid model and program-wide implementation. You're muted.
Every single time. Thank you guys all so much for taking the time to hop on today and just learn a little bit about program-wide implementation. Obviously, the first place we want to start is, what is the pyramid model? Many of you may have attended trainings, maybe you've done the e-modules and you're familiar with this pyramid that you see before you. But the pyramid model is a social and emotional framework that's going to help all of our young learners in our state really build that foundation to be successful. And so with anything, when we're growing, when we're creating a foundation, we want to start at the bottom. And so when we're looking at the pyramid, everything is, on that foundational effective workforce. But when it comes to those universal promotions for social emotional competences, which are for everybody, all of our friends in the classroom, we find those with those high quality supportive environments and those nurturing and responsive relationships. And that's the foundation of the pyramid. That's where we help implement strategies and resources and make sure our environments are ready to receive our friends and support them in their growth and development. And so as we move through the pyramid, we start looking at some of those secondary prevention by providing those more intentional interventions. And that's for some. The beauty of those targeted social emotional supports in the middle of the pyramid is they help everyone, but some of our friends might need a little bit more intensive support when it comes to, self-regulation or identifying how they're feeling or knowing what's coming next in their day. And then after we go through that, if we still have some friends who really need some intentional support, and there's that tier 3, which is very few students who need that individualized intervention. And that's when we partner with families and we create a team with teachers and behavior support coaches and really help develop a plan to support this friend in the classroom. to meet them where they are. One of the things I always say when we're talking about pyramid model, we're talking about how we build from the ground up, is a lot of times when we have those challenges in the classroom that are really intense, it's really hard for us not to flip that pyramid upside down and try to focus on those really intensive behaviors. But as we know, a pyramid that's at its point is going to just topple over. So that's why we start from the bottom and see what supports we can put in place, so that if we do get to that point, we have just a few friends that need that intentional support, and we can be beneficial for helping them walk through those changes that they're going to be trying as they're trying new strategies in the classroom. And then when we think about pyramid model, maybe you've done those with the e-modules, or maybe you've attended a training, maybe you came to ECI and saw a very brief drive-by a pyramid model with myself and Carrie Trevetti. But the benefits of program-wide is it takes it to the next level. It stops just being a training. We've got the information, let's go try it. And it becomes extremely intentional. Program-wide is a partnership. And so with that program-wide partnership with Pyramid Pieces, you're going to notice some benefits. And one of the benefits is it's going to promote that healthy social emotional development for the young kiddos who are in your districts. And the second one is it's going to prevent the use of challenging behaviors that kiddos often use to get those needs met. So those things that we are struggling with and we're trying to figure out how to support our friends, we'll start to see some of those decrease. And then one of the third benefits is it's going to provide teachers with more tools that they can use to help intervene when those challenging behaviors are persisting. Now, like many things, implementation is a process. Like I mentioned, trainings are great, but with implementation, it's not a sit and get. It's we come together, we create a plan, we go through phases. And so there's a process in place that we go through. And this right here, when we're talking about what it looks like, that's part of the exploration phase. The first phase of exploration, we start to build readiness and capacity. We're setting priorities, we're getting staff buy-in. Exploration is the most crucial foundational phase. It's that bottom of the pyramid where we're really just investing time and energy, seeing what capacity we have and what resources and tools we need to increase your capacity. It is never a, hey, you filled out an application, great job, here's a packet, go forth and do. That's not how this works. This is a partnership between your district and Pyramid Pieces, and we're here for the duration. We're here to support you along the way. The second phase is installation. And that's when we start to look at, okay, here's the capacity we have. Here's who we have in place to serve. We'll start developing and strengthening those critical elements that are part of that implementation process that we'll talk about in a moment. And then we walk through leadership team trainings and your staff professional development. The biggest part of this to remember is there's a leadership team that's going to help drive this whole process so that it's not one person doing all the things. You're going to come together, you're going to create a team, because that's going to be the foundation of how things can grow. After you get those things into place, we move into that initial implementation. And so that's when we have critical elements in place, and there's operational monitoring of implementation outcomes. So we're able to kind of see what's growing, what's changing, what supports are needed, what more things we can do to continue that growth. And then we move into full implementation, where we are doing the work. It is part of our classroom culture. It's part of our district culture. And we're going to continue to monitor and support the elements of implementation. So, as I mentioned, there are several elements that indicate that we are not just doing a training and utilizing some practices, that this is a full implementation. So the first thing we really look at is a leadership team. We identify if our staff are on board with participating. We look into family engagement, setting program-wide expectations for all of our little friends and all of our classrooms that are in our early learning areas. And then that classroom implementation and observation, which is my favorite part because that's just the funnest part. We look at data decision making, and then we help create staff professional development and support. And then we have the behavior support network, and all these pieces come together to create that implementation plan. And we're going to go a little bit through each of these. All right, so building the leadership team. After we, start to navigate exploration, one of the things we'll have you look at is who can serve in some specific roles in your leadership team? Who's going to be able to support your district in creating an opportunity for pyramid model to become part of your district's culture? And so through that, we have a series of sessions where we sit down and we really identify, what things are needed to help pyramid grow. At the table for a leadership team, we want to make sure there's teacher representation. We want to make sure that we have someone who can act in the role as a coach, as a behavior support coach, admin support, family member. And so we know that districts don't come in with all these people just ready to roll and step into these positions, right? So part of the capacity building is us helping you think through who can serve in some of these roles. And if any of these roles you're having a hard time thinking through how to make it work, that's okay. Like, that's our job, is to come alongside you and help you think through, problem solve, and identify ways that might be an option. And then through that, after the leadership team, we move into that staff buy-in. Now, for staff buy-in, part of the application process is to conduct a staff buy-in, which, don't worry, you don't have to know all the things and give a spiel and then hope that they buy in. We've created a video that you can share with your staff. The goal is that they can see it, identify, do I feel ready to participate in this level of a commitment, that program-wide implementation? Because it's not just a training and a, okay, go do, it's training and coaching and support, and it's becoming a community around pyramid. They get to have their voice heard. And so you'll provide the video, conduct a staff buy-in, and then just kind of turn that staff buy-in score into us so we can help you navigate along that next steps for implementation. But the ideal goal for staff buy-in is that at least 80% of staff are on board and ready to move forward with implementation. And then the next piece is family engagement. We want families to be connected. One of the things that's beneficial is with family engagement is if we're doing it in the classroom and families are doing it at home, how much more effective will those strategies be? But part of that is, how do we get our families involved in the process? There are resources upon resources that can be shared with families. So we come alongside with you, help you plan and navigate how we can best increase that family engagement regarding pyramid model. Part of the leadership team sessions that we do walk through how we can really help support families in getting involved and becoming part of the process. One of the other areas that are super fun to think through are those program-wide expectations. The reason it's fun to think through is because we want to think through them with our littlest friends in mind in the school. I know a lot of our schools have those expectations already up. So when you're thinking through that lens of, are these appropriate for our youngest learners, it's fun to really think through, how can we make these more accessible to everyone? So we help you navigate through that, what that looks like in those leadership team sessions. How can we make sure that everyone's kind of on the same page, that they're positive, that they're going to be building our friends up and not tearing them down. And I know many of the schools I've been in, we see all the fun expectations, and they're usually themed to the mascots in the school. And so it's a fun way to really look at what we're expecting of kiddos. Another fun part of that is that program-wide expectations, also, it means it applies to the adults in the building too, which sometimes it's really fun for our older partners in the room, because we don't have any kids on the leadership team, to be like, oh, wow, I guess I've never really thought about that it applies to everyone. So that's a fun conversation we get to have. I know I say this is a lot of fun, but it really is. It's a lot of fun to sit and think through and reflect on some of the things that we have in place. The other element that we really, I know I've already said it's a lot of fun, but my favorite part is classroom implementation and that observation. So we utilize a tool called the Teapot, which is the teaching pyramid observation tool. We reiterate vehemently that it is just a tool for coaching. It's not an assessment. It's not a grade. It's not a score. It is simply so that whoever's acting in the role of your pyramid model implementation coach can look at the scores and say, you know what? Okay, here's the support I can provide. Here's the trainings we might need. Here's the conversations and the community practices that might be beneficial for us to set up. here's how I can support the teachers and where they are. Oftentimes there's some fear associated when teachers hear the teapot, and we're really trying to, I don't want to say demystify, but it seems scary, but it's really not. It's just a tool. And so we even have social stories to share with teachers, just like we share with kiddos about, hey, this is coming, here's what you should know. But I actually get to do a few of these coming up soon for some of our districts. So it's a lot of fun to go in the classroom and celebrate what teachers are doing. That's the whole point, is that we can document what teachers are doing and then turn around and celebrate those things. And if we don't observe and we don't write down notes, then we can't remember. I mean, I know I can't remember things I need to go back and say if I don't write it down. We can't remember to celebrate the amazing things that our teachers are doing, who deserve that celebration. And then from that, from when we look at those teapot scores that come in and we're identifying what we need to work on and how our coaches can support the teachers in the classroom, we use that data-based decision making. If predominantly we see, teachers really need support in a specific area like environments, then we look at the data that's presented in those, we take that, and then I can support the coach in coming up with, here's what we need to do. Here's our plans for coaching. Here's our plans for professional development. Here's how we can support in a community practice capacity. How can we support families at home with these same strategies? And really being intentional on what we're focusing on. And then we come together and create this professional development and staff support plan. So with implementation, there is the coaching component. Your coach will support your teachers in the classroom with setting achievable, actionable steps. The teachers get to identify what they want to work on, and then the coach supports them setting those goals and making action steps to make those things happen. And so the staff literally will come together with their coach, talk about a plan, how to create it, how to make it work, and just have those check-ins to see how's it going, how can I support you. It becomes not only a culture, a pyramid model in your schools and classrooms, but a culture of support. And then we move into Ellen.
So part of supporting staff during program-wide implementation includes the addition of the Behavior Support Network. The goal of the Behavior Support Network is to really support teachers who are struggling with persistent, challenging behaviors in the classroom. This is going to take place through your district behavior support coaches, and they will provide advisement to implementation coaches to ensure that there's strong tier 1, tier 2 practices in classrooms that are consistently used. And if there are challenging behaviors that persist beyond that, then the Behavior Support Network uses Prevent, Teach, Reinforce for Young Children, also known as PTRYC, to provide a team-based positive behavior support process to develop individualized interventions. And working with families is really an important part of that process. We work with a growth mindset that, a child needs more support in social and emotional development. And so we're going to develop interventions to meet those needs. The Behavior Support Network also will help districts look at preschool discipline policies with the goal of eliminating the use of suspension and expulsion. We don't want to rush kids onto behavior support plans, and we want to ensure that children have access to supportive classrooms where children really have the opportunities to learn, practice, and develop those pro-social behaviors with their classmates and friends. We don't work directly with children. We will work with the behavior support coach, and the behavior support coach is going to work with the teachers. We really want to increase teachers' abilities to feel confident and competent in reducing challenging behaviors in the classroom. And they're going to do that by improving relationships, as well as improving teacher practices and looking at effective use of interventions to help reduce challenging behaviors. So you're going to hear all this talk about building capacity. We want to acknowledge that change can be hard, and there needs to be time spent in building out your implementation process. There needs to be thoughtfulness behind your vision, your skills, your incentives, resources, and action plans. If any of these pieces are missing, then the outcomes aren't going to be ideal. So if you're missing the vision, you're going to get confusion as to, why are we doing this? If we're missing skills, that's going to create anxiety about how do I do this? If you're missing incentives, you're going to get gradual change because they're going to be like, well, who's benefiting from this? If you're missing resources, that's going to lead to frustration because we don't have the tools to make this happen. And if you're missing an action plan, you're going to end up with lots of false starts because we need to make sure that all the pieces of that plan are in place so we have successful implementation. I know it seems like a lot, but all of these pieces really are crucial in the success of implementation. So what are you going to be committing to? You're going to be committing to implementing pyramid model practices across your preschool programs. It is important to note that we are not going to start all classrooms in the process, but you are going to have a plan for scaling up pyramid model implementation and framework across your program. So we start with coaching of a few classrooms and we build that. Also providing coaching to classroom teachers, and this is going to be your implementation coach and your behavior coach, and ensuring that teachers have time outside of the classroom to meet with their coaches and that we really nurture this relationship. And then looking at building program policies and procedures that support children and staff. That is that base of the pyramid that makes the pyramid have an actual foundation under it. And then back to data collection, analyzing that data and sharing that data, really making that useful information and not just something we're gathering that has no purpose, really making data purposeful. And then we really want to look at, how are we working together? That we are working in partnership with each other. And that means, as districts, you own this process, but that you're also utilizing your partnership with Pyramid Pieces, this team here, to assist you in building implementation. So what is the application process? I'm going to pass this now over to Jen, and she's going to go through that part of the presentation with us.
All right, thank you, Ellen. So you can see that we take a lot of thought and time to discuss capacity, to build that capacity with you, because we don't want to have the false starts or the confusion or any of those things that are going to keep us from being able to support teachers and children and families in the way that they need to be supported. And so with that, we really thought through, what does the application process look like? And so the first thing is that we have an application packet. It is available on our website now, and we will share that information with you at the end of this and send it in an email so you know how to access it. But the first part of it asks you to go through and think about all of these pieces that Nicole and Ellen have talked about related to capacity and who needs to be with you to support you on this journey. And what are the things that we need to consider that might need to be adjusted or put into place to make your implementation process a success. And so the first part of the application is a readiness assessment, where you're looking at and self-assessing your program readiness and sustainability, including who could be on your leadership team, what information do you need to share with people, and doing your staff buy-in. The readiness assessment also asks you to complete 2 modules provided by the Pyramid Model Consortium on implementation, exploration, and readiness. Module 1 and Module 2 you'll be asked to look at those with your application team. They're about 20 minutes. They don't take very long, but they do a really great job of digging into implementation on top of what we have provided you here, because we want to make sure that everybody understands what it is that you're considering, and to help you get familiar with some of the things that are part of program-wide implementation and why it differs from just classroom-wide implementation. And then you'll use some of the activities that you do as part of your application process later. Like I said, Module 1 and Module 2 are all that we ask you to do. They are free from the Pyramid Model Consortium, and they take about 20 minutes apiece. And then you get to the application. The application asks you to provide program information, the results of your staff buy-in, and then also for you to rate yourselves based on program readiness and sustainability. You can see this is just a quick screenshot of the first page, and it talks to you about the self-assessment that it's going to take you through to understand what's in place. Nicole's email and information, she is always available to you. If you have any questions throughout this process, you can reach out and she will help you out. But one of the things that you have to keep in mind, while it asks you to rate yourself, and it'll say, you know, for this question, for this answer, it's 3 points or 2 points or 1 point. There is no ideal score that we are looking for, that the application review committee is looking for to say this district is accepted and this district is not. This is just to help everyone understand where we're starting from. It helps you as a program know where your strengths are and where we may need to build additional capacity. And it helps us to think about how we create targeted professional development opportunities and capacity building supports in the spring of 2024, so that you are ready for that initial that installation and implementation phases that come in the fall. And so this just gives everybody a real world idea of where we're coming from and where we want to go. So when you're ready, when you've completed the readiness packet and you've gone through and done your self-rating, you're going to go in. There's a link to the Qualtrics form for the application that's provided within the readiness the application and readiness packet, and you're just going to submit your answers straight. It follows straight down from the application itself, and all applications are due by November 10th. When you're ready, you'll hit that submit button and send it over to us. And Nicole?
So we will have some opportunities in October and in November to have some office hours where you can hop on and ask any questions, whether it's about the application or just about the process in general and what things can look like. October 19th, the 26th, and then November 2nd, from 10 to 11. And we'll be there available. You don't have to come and stay the whole time. You can hop on, ask your question. So anytime between 10 and 11, you're welcome, free to come and go as you need to ask whatever questions you might have. Speaking of questions, does anyone have any? So now we're going to open it up. So if you have questions, you can drop those in the Q&A box at the bottom. And so now we'll do that awkward pause of silence while everybody takes a minute to see if they have any questions they might want to ask. And obviously, if there's questions that come up later, by all means.
We do have a question.
Hey.
The question is, who should be completing the self-assessment? The leadership team or someone else?
Well, if you already have a leadership, or Jennifer, I'll let you take that one.
Okay. Yes, I was like, do you want me to take that one? Let me know. If you have a leadership team already, you are welcome to do that. But we feel like there needs to be at least 2 people who are going through this process, bouncing ideas off of each other. And so that can actually be done by one of you that's on the call, an administrator and another person. But, we want to make sure there's at least 2 of you, and we ask you to provide an initial, like a follow-up contact person if we have questions. And so who completes the self-assessment in the application is definitely up to you.
We have another question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Alan.
It says, I heard you say PD is mostly guided by teachers' needs throughout the partnership. Is there an expectation for teacher time in professional development or sessions prior to full implementation?
So when it comes to the professional development component, the coach and the leadership team will probably have conversations about how training is going to work. One of the beautiful things that we have available to us now is we have the e-modules available for free to all teachers, all families. Anybody in the state of South Carolina can take the pyramid model e-modules that are available. In addition to those e-modules, there is also a guide that can be used to help break down how teachers can do those. But we know that just a virtual training is not going to create sustainable change. So if we're doing the e-modules, we want to make sure that there is conversation, there's something that's going with that. So whether that's a community of practice around the focus that the teachers need at that time, and every district's going to look a little different. We have some districts where they're like, okay, teachers, we want everyone to do the e-modules, and then they do that training, but then they're also getting their coaching, and they might have some more intensive peeks into those e-modules on specific sections as needed. So if everyone just really needs more help with, reviewing visual schedules and really connecting to that area of pyramid, the coach might say, you know what, we did the e-module, I'm going to take the content, and your coaches are going to receive pyramid model training to be trainers of the pyramid model as well. So they might take what the needs are and create a professional development opportunity for the teachers that is in person, and create that training and that space for them to really dive deeper into it.
And I do want to add, just related to PD, we do ask that all leadership team members and coaches complete the online Birth to 5 e-module. We have access to 3 e-modules or e-trainings, but the Birth to 5 e-modules to be completed by the end of February. So February of 2024, everybody on the leadership team will need to have completed those in order to begin the training of trainer series, TPOT reliability, and practice-based coaching as needed. Go ahead, Ellen.
Oh, we have another question.
We do.
For planning purposes, would we be looking at step 3, initial implementation, starting in the 24-25 school year, and steps 1 and 2 happening during this school year?
I think that is a 2-part question. So the first part I want to answer is that when we look at the implementation process from exploration to full implementation, it is going to be fluid, which is very uncomfortable. And I understand that. That's been one of the hardest things for, I think, all of us to understand, is that, we start an exploration and we're building capacity, and then we're like, okay, we're ready to do installation and start the next steps. But then maybe somebody leaves or something happens and we need to slide back and build capacity a little bit longer. Or we're in implementation and we have a pandemic shutdown. Well, we have to stop where we are right there and kind of take a step back, reassess everything, and kind of start building again. And so we stress not looking at everything in a very linear fashion where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, but understanding that there's going to be peaks and valleys and kind of sliding along this scale, because life happens. We're all humans. We have, I think all of us never, and I hate it, but we all now know that life is going to happen to us and we're going to be able to do what we can. The great thing about this is that when you're partnering with Pyramid Pieces, we're committing to a partnership with you for 3 to 5 years, longer if it needs to be longer, because you might be a big school district and it's going to take longer. But we're with you through the duration until you're ready to look at us and say, we've got this. It's our culture. We have this leadership team in place to where if somebody leaves tomorrow, we are going to be able to onboard that next person and get them ready to go and continue on rolling with pyramid model implementation across our district. So that's the first part. The second part I want to say, so we are looking at from January to July, we're going to be building that capacity and doing those initial trainings. And so we're going to be taking a look at your application saying, okay, we need to build up here. This is doing great and we want to continue to sustain it. We've got these pieces figured out of our leadership team or our programs and policies, but we need to figure out what we're going to do about coaching, or who's going to be our first classrooms that are going to be observed and coached. And so there's going to be some questions and things where we spend time building that capacity during that spring semester and getting those initial trainings taken care of. In the fall of 24, you'll do your leadership team trainings, your initial teapot observation. So you're going to start gathering that data in the fall. And then, Nicole, correct me if I'm wrong, but we'll probably look at really starting coaching around the first part of 25. Is that correct? So that you have time.
Depending on, yeah, and it goes back to being dependent on what the needs are of your district. So
Yeah.
ideally by 25, you'll be in the coaching process.
All right. And then Tabitha, I see that you also asked if we could share that timeline in writing. The January to July timeline is included in the application readiness packet, so you can kind of see what that first part looks like. The reason we've only completed that, the reason we've only put January to July in there is because there's certain trainings that we would have to do on a larger scale. So our training of the trainer, we can only offer it in because it's an in-person 18 hours of training that will spread out over the semester. Those have to all be done at the same time together. And then practice-based coaching and teapot reliability are all done as a group. And so because of that, we do have the January to July timeline included in the readiness packet. But after that, the leadership team trainings and the next parts of installation are based on the timing and the needs of of each particular district. And so your district might be ready to, let's go and do all of our leadership trainings in August, and then we're going to do this, but somebody else might need a little bit more time. And so that's where after July, it becomes much more fluid. Did that help?
It's very much so not if you're not done by this point, then we're sorry, you're no longer partnering with us. It's like, if we're not where it's comfortable for you right now, that's okay.
Yeah.
We're here to walk alongside you wherever you are in the process. And we have the 4 districts we have now, they're all varied in where they are. And that's okay, because that means that we're able to see them for exactly what they're bringing to the table, support what they're bringing to the table, and us be able to bring what they need to the table. If we try to cram everybody in the same position, then that no one's needs are genuinely getting met. And our goal is to be as supportive as possible without our districts feeling like, oh my gosh, we've got to clamor and get this done. It's not a race for anyone. We just want everyone to know that the supports that are going to be provided to you are based on what you specifically need as a district.
Yes. I'm sorry. The question says, I'm excited to go ahead and see what our buy-in is at this time. Will the video be shared? Yes, our staff buy-in video is up on YouTube, and the link to that is in the application readiness packet. There's a link directly to the staff buy-in video, and you'll be able to share that with your team. And then the packet also provides you the 4 questions that you'll need to ask. You'll create a survey if you want to do Google Forms or SurveyMonkey or anything like that. And there's 4 questions that the National Center for Pyramid Model Innovations has set up for you to assess staff buy-in. So you'll send everybody the link and the survey, and they can choose after they have viewed the video whether they're ready to get going, whether they need a little bit more time, and then you'll be able to get those results immediately. And that's what you'll report back to us. But all of that information is provided in the readiness packet. Great, Tabitha. If you have any more, please come to our virtual office hours, and we'll share that link as well. We still have a little bit of time if we have any more questions. All right, Nicole, if you'll share this.
Absolutely. Let me move the Q&A box. Okay. So obviously, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I know in the application, our contact information is all over the place in there. But we definitely want you to stay connected in other ways as well. Please be sure to connect with us on Facebook, Instagram. It's called X now, not Twitter, I think. Is that correct, friends?
So.
Twitter/X. But also our Pyramid Pieces website launched. And so please go visit there. There's lots of information to be had at www.scpyramidpieces.org. But yeah, stay connected, follow us. We have a wonderful communications friend on our team who keeps our social medias looking amazing. So please be sure to give us a follow there as well.
We thank you all so much for your time today. We'll be sticking around if you have any other questions, but we hope you have a great afternoon and rest of your week. Happy October, everyone.
Happy fall.